Had you been one of the lucky children to have seen those films in their entirety in the Journeys in Film program, you would have traveled to China, to South Korea, to Iran, and even to South Africa. You would have been an ancient grandmother and a spoiled child. And you would have had the experience of a tribal elder frustrated by the devastation of something called AIDS in his community. And you would have traveled back in time to Nazi Germany, to a concentration camp, to remember one more reason why we must never forget. You would have indeed journeyed in film. My first journey in film began when I was quite young, and a long time ago, in a hot air balloon, actually. When I was a little girl, my parents moved us out of a rat-infested tenement in Brooklyn into a social experiment. That social experiment was called a housing project. And the idea was that you'd bring together people living in poverty and give them good surroundings. And I think the idea was then we would all sing Kumbaya, or other wonderful things would happen. And some wonderful things did happen. There were no rats. But we also ended up in an incredibly violent world. In New York City now, the projects is synonymous actually with violence and drug culture. And that started when I was there, when I was a little girl, and my world increasingly just got smaller and smaller and smaller until it was literally the size of my closet in my bedroom, the only place where I literally felt safe. And then something happened, and someone opened a movie theater. It was 2 bus rides away and a hike about a mile long across an empty lot. But we went. My dad gathered up all of the bus fare, and my 5 brothers and sisters and I got on buses and went to see a film. And that film was called Around the World in 80 Days. For those of you who don't know that film, it's actually a story of a very proper British gentleman, played by David Niven, and his valet, who make a very heavy bet that they can get around the world in 80 days. It's actually a Jules Verne story. And I hear tell that it's also a comedy. I didn't laugh because I was too busy being incredibly transformed and overwhelmed, looking at countries that I'd never seen before, but ultimately having this incredible revelation that my world was not the world. That passion ignited that day a desire to see the world for myself. That passion drove the work that got me out of the projects. It drove me going to Harvard. It drove me becoming a writer. And it drove me helping people understand how film actually works and its power. And none of that makes me a hero. It just makes me lucky. And we are depending too much on that same kind of luck right now for our children in our school system. We don't know everything about the world that our kids are going to inhabit, but I think we can all agree they are definitely going to live in a world that is incredibly interdependent, incredibly collaborative, and incredibly global. We know this because it already is. And they know it. They have kids sitting next to them in class from countries that they've maybe never heard of. And they're going to grow up and need to be successful in a world where they work with people from all kinds of countries with all kinds of stories of their own. And sometimes they're not even going to see those people face to face. It's technology that's going to connect them to each other and connect all of these countries. They're going to meet and maybe fall in love with someone whose last name they have trouble pronouncing. They're going to have friends, and those friends are going to have stories from childhood about candy bars that these kids have never seen or heard of. This is all the connectivity that exists today. And their success, however they end up defining success in their lives, is going to depend on being a global citizen. And being a global citizen is going to depend on whether or not they actually want to be one. Journeys in Film has developed a curriculum that is amazing in its scope. 800,000 students have been educated through this curriculum. The curriculum is multidisciplinary. It goes from the sciences to the arts, from mathematics to music. It's standards-based. It's developed by top educators. So teachers can take this and plug and play. They can use this curriculum and have confidence in it and can test against it. And these teachers are trained by Journeys in Film to teach with film. They are teaching the most visually literate generation that has ever existed, likely, certainly in our recorded time. We know that these children get an amazing amount of information from film. They're consuming it at record levels on devices that we couldn't imagine even just 10 years ago. And yet in this country, we lack a comprehensive and deliberate plan across this country for film education. We are not capturing the power of film to motivate and engage these students to be global citizens, and then help take that energy that gets created to teach them about these countries. And their success is going to depend on it. There's a Buddhist expression that I kind of don't like very much, but because I failed Buddhism, called water drips through stone. And to be honest, I'm more of a fire hose kind of person, as some people in this room know. But here's my point on that. We don't have time for water to drip through stone. We have kids who are graduating and seeing films without any sense of how to actually critically think about film. And we've missed our opportunity once they leave those classrooms to actually engage them in the world in the way that I was engaged in that theater so many years ago. 800,000 students sounds like so many, but it's so few, and they're so lucky. Since the beginning of Journeys in Film, Liam Neeson has been our national spokesperson. He learned firsthand, playing Schindler in Schindler's List, the power that film had to change people and lives. And I know it's difficult to think that the star of Taken would ever be asking for anyone's help, but I think if Liam were in the Red Dot right now, that's exactly what he would do. He would ask you to advocate for film education in our country, to galvanize this visually literate generation. So I'll make you a deal. You send your kids to school, and we'll get them ready for the world. Thank you.